Not everyone does that. Not everyone lies when they're getting
Have
loans.
you ever fudged?
No, I've never committed bank fraud. Seems like your whole point with undocumented immigrants is, well, they're getting all these things that legal immigrants, they're jumping in front of the legal immigrants who are trying to do it right, or they're taking jobs from the citizens who are doing it right. But then here is Donald Trump literally doing that, jumping the line, fraudulently taking the money out of the hands of smaller loaners, out of middle-class people who could be trying to use that loan to make their family better, their lives better for their family. And you're just like, I don't care. I am curious if you think that breaking the law by crossing the border, which in most instances is just a civil violation if it's your first time, if you think that that avoids you due process, why do you think that a 34 count felon and adjudicated rapist can be president?
Where was he found guilty of rape? I missed that part.
In civil court in New York, 9-0.
You mean the part where all he was paying for was for the defamation and not for anything sexual, right?
No. To be clear, it was for sexual assault and defamation for the victim that he sexually assaulted. And the judge in the case clarified that by the way that we colloquially say rape, that Donald Trump raped E. Jean Carroll.
Okay. All right. Okay. We'll just.
So why do you think he can be president, though, but migrants shouldn't have due process for civil violations?
Well, for the same reason that he was never charged with anything until he was president. And now that he became president, they decided that his dealings with a bank were public, made for public, and that he somehow made up what he wanted on his loan application so that he could get more money. You realize everybody does that?
Everybody doing something when it makes something not a crime. Also, not everybody does it. And there's also the unique situation where he specifically falsified business records in an attempt to boost himself into the presidency, which makes it a bit more of a heightened situation. Wouldn't you say, if you would say, of course, if a civilian did a crime or did something that maybe walks the line of criminal, that's not as big of a deal as someone doing something criminal to put themselves into a position of power, right?
What did he do criminally to put himself in power?
He falsified business records. It was falsifying business records in the first degree was the charge.
Oh, you mean when he was getting the loan? That had nothing to do with him trying to get power for presidency.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, no. Because what he was doing was he was paying back Michael Cohen to pay an NDA to hide the fact that he had an affair on his wife. He did this specifically because he thought that if it got out, that it would hurt his campaign.
You do realize that the Democratic Party in Congress has a slush fund to pay those kind of things, right?
That's fine, but do you concede that that happened?
Sure.
Okay, so
should we take everybody in the Democratic Party out then because they have that slush fund and they have paid people out of that slush fund?
Who?
Let's see. There was what was that? Al Franken.
Donald Trump is absolutely the only person to do it in an attempt to boost himself into the presidency, which again makes it a bit more of a severe thing, right? I'm not even trying to pass the moral judgment on him for cheating on his wife, right? That's one thing which I think you could pass moral judgment on him for, but I'm not even making that claim. I'm making the claim that he falsified business records where he paid an NDA to have that hidden to boost himself into the presidency, which is a conspiracy. It violates New York state election law, which was the underlying law that allowed them to charge him with a felony rather than it being a misdemeanor.
So I don't even know that actually happened. I don't trust anything that Cohen says.
Well, he was found guilty in the court of law. Unanimously.
In the court of law?
Unanimously, yes.
You're talking about the one in New York, the same charges that Letitia James is looking at right now?
I'm talking about the 34 felony counts that were brought against him, yes.
Yeah, the same thing that's happening to her right now.
Do you think that the charges being brought against a Democrat make it not as serious that Donald Trump did it, or why do you bring that up?
When when that happens and if tables are turned on you, you can't claim, that, oh, well, this doesn't happen. So now that has happened, even though that happens to every single person that's ever applied for a loan application.
That's not true.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
everyone who applies for loan applications
I shouldn't say everybody.
don't commit hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and overinflate the values of their properties and say that you could fit more properties than could fit. And, not everyone does that. Not everyone lies when they're getting loans.
Have you ever fudged?
No, I've never committed bank fraud.
No, you've never said that you made more money on maybe a credit card application.
No, and I want to clarify that is also not what Trump. That's not the same as what Trump did.
That's falsifying records, right?
No, that probably wouldn't be falsifying records.
It absolutely would. If you are putting that you make more money in order to get a credit card to give you more money, that is absolutely the same thing.
No, and most credit cards aren't even income dependent. I don't know how you could even get, I don't think you could get falsifying business records when filing for a credit card. I don't think that's a very stringent analogy there. But what Trump did very clearly was he lied to banks about the value of his homes so he could get money from those banks based off inflated values for his properties, knowing because he had got them assessed prior to giving the inflated values. So he knowingly lied to banks to get hundreds of billions of dollars that he otherwise, or hundreds of millions of dollars that he otherwise wouldn't have been able to access. That's fraud. If that's not fraud, what is fraud?
Okay, now let me ask you this. Who's the one that brought the charges?
Okay, I'll answer that, but I am so curious. Do you think that it's not fraud, or do you think that it's fraud and you don't care?
I think it is basic, yes, it is technically, yes, it's classified as fraud, but it's done on so many other facets of loans and things like that people do that nobody even cares. And number one, the banks didn't care. The bank, what was it, the president?
That's why it's called fraud.
And said, absolutely, he paid off everything. We don't have a problem with it.
Yes, because it enriches the banks.
Okay, so where's the crime?
It's the fraud. If he takes the money, you understand.
Who did he defraud?
You understand the victims in this.
Who did he defraud?
The banks, but let me explain the victims in this.
So he defrauded.
Yeah, hold on.
Yes,
and I can explain where the victims still fall. I can explain where the victims still fall in this. He defrauded the bank, who, because he paid it off, still benefited from him. The victims are smaller loaners, people who want those same loans that the bank now doesn't have the money to give it out to because they're giving it to Donald Trump. The problem is Donald Trump is getting it unjustifiably. He lied to get it, but the people who are honestly trying to apply for the loans aren't getting it, which I think is weird that you don't have a problem with, because it seems like your whole point with undocumented immigrants is, well, they're getting all these things that legal immigrants, they're jumping in front of the legal immigrants who are trying to do it right, or they're taking jobs from the citizens who are doing it right. But then here is Donald Trump literally doing that, jumping the line, fraudulently taking the money out of the hands of smaller loaners, out of middle-class people who could be trying to use that loan to make their family better, their lives better for their family. And you're just like, I don't care.
No. No, it's not the same thing, because number one, Donald Trump is a citizen, for one.
Right, but in the analogy here, he's like an undocumented immigrant, because to the bank, he is the fraudulent person asking for the loan while someone is trying to do it the legal way. He's the one breaking the law to try to do it while someone's trying to do it the legal way.
Okay, so who didn't get a loan?
Smaller loaners.
Oh, who was that?
You want me to name the smaller loaners verbatim?
Well, I mean, if you're gonna make a claim that they were defrauded, I would like to know who it was, because he was never charged by those
the
people.
Banks.
They never even said that he did anything wrong.
The banks were defrauded.
The only people that said he did something wrong was New York.
The banks were defrauded. And I just also want to clarify. I also just want to clarify.
And the part where the president said they weren't defrauded.
I just want to clarify here. I just want to clarify also is that he defrauded like multiple institutions. Like he defrauded like rental loaners, he defrauded banks. And like you're trying to talk about one president for one bank as if that absolves him for all of it, which I'm just explaining how even in that situation, there still are winners and losers, but it's not like the one president.
So who were the other institutions that brought cases against him?
Like I know for a fact Mar-a-Lago was one, Mar-a-Lago, because or maybe not Mar-a-Lago, one of his properties where he overestimated the amount of like houses that could be built on the land, and he sold it to somebody. He sold it to a venture capitalist, an investor, or an investment bank. I don't remember the exact name, but this was one of them that is filed in the fraud case where he said that you could fit 1,500 properties, and it ended up you could only fit like 800 on it or something like that. And I mean, that is just a straight up lie to sell a property that bank or investor might have otherwise not bought.